Yeah, it sure ain't Alan, is it? Hi everybody, hope everyone's having a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where you are. If you didn't look on Twitter on my schedule for the week, I actually put this as an Alan Wake day, because I was planning on finishing Alan Wake today, but, uh, let's just say I was yapping with Check too long during the exercise portion of my evening, and I took my time, got a shower, started making dinner, and by the time I was finished eating dinner, it was 8:30. So, because mentally, I've been like for Alan Wake, I'm just mentally allotting 4 hours for it. So if I started Alan Wake at 8:30, it would probably take me to 1 or 2 a.m. to finish it. Just because yes, my Alan Wake streams have been 4 hours per episode, but also I'm just assuming that the last episode it could be longer or it could be shorter just because it's the grand finale. So I didn't want to do that. So instead, I'm doing the more spooky mystery VNs that I was planning on doing at some point this month. So just you know what, Alice Mare is also a 4 hour game that's a little too long. So this is one of the other things I want to do. So we're gonna do this tonight. I have three visual novels. So we have this one. The next this one is a short one. Next one is also, I believe, a short one. And the last one I'm not sure about. I genuinely don't know. I just had it in my arsenal for I want to play this during October. And I forget how long it was. So I'm not sure if we'll finish it. I'm not sure if it's also a short one or if it's something off the cut midway. But this is mainly a short showcase anyway, just so hey, there's spooky VNs and I wanted to play them anyway. And you might be wondering, uh, I usually play VNs on Tuesdays with the group, but all the ones here today are, um, they're very much uh, small casts. Let's just say it's I believe in this one, it's only two characters, so it just kind of well, I have a group of five, and we can't really split up two characters amongst ourselves. So it's kind of that kind of situation um, where for VNs that don't have a lot of characters split between a large group, I just play by myself. So that's why I'm doing that today, rather than saving these for Tuesday. If I tried to save these for a rainy day where it was only me and Moji, for example, we're having a night to ourselves, that would take forever because usually everyone's pretty on it with Tuesdays. So anyway, this first game we have up is called It Paints Me. It's by the same creator as the person who did the uh Snow White Ashes. I was trying to remember the name. Snow White Ashes. I played that. I played the demo for that, I believe, a month or so ago. So they just released this game on Steam. I believe it was on itch.io for a while. It's also free, so if there's any choices I don't make or anything that I don't explore in this game, you can pick up for free. It's free on both Steam and itch.io. So let's see. First, because I was playing this first, I didn't go into the settings at all. So knock that. We'll keep the music up. The music's at a nice volume. There is partial voice acting this one, I believe. So that's cool. Save my voice for a little bit. Put that up there. And not get a skip. And what's the controls? Okay. Alright. Let's get started. Okay, every night I find myself alone in the studio, curtains drawn tight, my neat row of paints, palette and brushes in the same place on the drawer by the easel. The canvas upon it sits, as always, unfinished, Marie's half-painted face frozen in silent song. It's laid out, as it always is when I awaken here. Marie is nowhere to be found. She must be still at the theater. Even when the curtains fall and the stage lights dim, the night is forever young for its star sopranos. I would always wait outside her dressing room, roses in hand, scores of other bright-eyed admirers spilling out through the halls, though she alone was mine. And I was hers. It's cold, bitterly cold tonight, but I still draw the curtains and open the windows wide. There's a stench in the room, deep and damp and sickly sweet, and I can't even seem to be rid of it. Besides that, the fumes from the linseed oil make my head spin. Like every night, I measure out my paints, arranging a small dabs of color on my palette from lightest to darkest. Titanium white and cadmium yellow, to corpse brown and lamp black. I wet my brush with oil and gently start to mix the pigments. It feels just a little bit like magic, watching them swirl and mix, forming new colors from old. Oh, hi, Val. Welcome. Thank you for being first. I'm gonna paint her hair first. Alan, go back to sleep. Alan's sleeping right now. I'm so sorry. Don't wake up. It was getting a little late, and I didn't want to rush through Alan Wake's ending. So we're here instead. We're here with creepy VNs painting people's hair and faces. I blended dark, deep red on my palette as I envisioned her hair in my mind's eye. Marie rarely ever bound her locks in fashionable plaits or ringlets, not even on our wedding day. Oh, they're married! I remember how her glossy black waves almost shimmered beneath her veil. The color of my palette is as dull as mud. I sigh and blend it into the background instead. I apply my paint with a generous dab of oil, but it seems I didn't have to. The canvas is still wet from last night and the night before. I must have painted and repainted the same background countless times. To say it's difficult to paint by lamplight, my muse nowhere in sight, is an understatement, of course. But lately, these nightly hours are the only time I find myself able to lift my brush. I stop every few strokes.
Spirits and arts.
Oh. Hi! I had joked that the pain had forced me away from the tailor shop meant I could finally return to my paintings at the very least. So I guess, like, this is, like, kind of an introspective game. I guess the few times when he talks, it's voiced. Cool. I was never any good at humor. Marie had sensed my worries, consoled me sweetly in her voice like a charmed stone to life.
Oh, Sam, don't worry. I have roles lined up for months. Go ahead and paint. We can still live comfortably.
It hurt. A small part of it did, beyond the physical, beyond the ailments to seek her permission. To be unable to care for my darling the way I had when we were young, brimming with talent but crushingly unknown. Well, she had been. I was, and still am, nothing. But perhaps finally it would now be my turn to bring my vision to the world. If only it didn't hurt so damned much. Time passes and I still don't manage more than a few strokes. A small patch of dark over an already wet canvas. Oh my god, hi Arsenic, how you doing? Hope you're having a fantastic one. Or perhaps time hasn't passed at all. The broken clock on the wall would suggest as much. Perhaps the seconds have lain still, the world outside unchanging, and I, the only thing that moves. Have I moved? Is repeating the same brushstrokes like a clockwork doll movement? I shiver and sigh. Perhaps sleep would be a better endeavor. Perhaps the next night will meet more success. I stand, setting aside my paints and palette, and slowly move to shut the windows. I stop. There, out in front of the garden, barely lit by a street lamp, stands a figure that can only be Marie. She bids goodbye to another figure, tall and broad-shouldered. Then she laughs, a beautiful laugh, a heartfelt laugh, and embraces him before he makes his reluctant exit on a carriage stopped by the gate. For a moment, I don't know what to think. A friend, a co-star, perhaps that amenable tenor she mentioned every now and then. I didn't see his face, but Marie's social circle had always eclipsed my own. It must be. Why would he come to our home? Why would she laugh that way? In the garden, in the midst of walking to the front door, humming to herself, Marie suddenly looks up. For a moment her eyes go wide, and she blinks as if shaking herself from a daze. I instinctively step back from the windows. Perhaps it's guilt that makes me do so. Marie is finally at home, and oh, I missed her so. How could the first thing I think upon seeing my darling be the worst thoughts my mind can conjure? For the first time in many, many nights, I feel just well enough to leave the studio. I'll prepare Marie a pot of her favorite chamomile tea. I'll listen as she tells me of the nights, the theater, the thousand small anecdotes she never runs out of, and maybe, just maybe, ask her again to sit for a portrait for me, like she used to. The house feels larger than it used to. Perhaps I was shut in the studio too long still. How could I so quickly become a stranger to my own home? The memories are fuzzy, the years blur together like a wash of oil colors. My mother and I, carrying our sparse luggage, stepping inside for the first time. My stepfather, laughing, his elbows on the breakfast table, chattering over something he'd read in the paper. Then silent hallways and empty rooms. And then myself, welcoming my new bride to these solitary halls, hanging our newly taken portraits above the mantel. The walls are barren now. I feel the walls in the dark, leaving sticky trails of paint behind, tracing the places where I used to hang. The paintings. The paintings I framed, the seaside landscape I painted on our honeymoon, the watercolor sketch of Maria couldn't hope to capture the sheen of her hair, the still life of candles and flowers that had wilted because I took too long to finish. Even the painting of roses in a vase, the first gift I had ever given her.
I wanted to bring you some flowers, but I was afraid they would wilt before I saw you next.
You painted them. Oh, they're beautiful, Sam.
The naked walls stared blankly at me. Confused, but with nowhere else to go, I continued through the house. As I walked, I passed the furniture my stepfather left me, the shelves and tables that always seemed so large and grand as a boy, now missing or mantled with thick white linen. They remind me of corpses on a hospital table, lying dead still, covered in sheets. Marie? I try to call out, but phlegm blocks my throat. I cough, long and drawn and wet, and then once more attempt to voice her name. Marie? It slicks off my tongue like a serpent uncoiling. I'd always loved her name, so tender and sweet, free of harsh syllables. Marie. It was a name like an impressionist blur, painted in soft strokes with a fine oil brush. It was the greatest joy in the world to join my name to hers. Silence fills the halls, a long, drawn-out silence, a held breath. Finally, my darling answers.
Sam.
Hi! It's me!
Is this a dream?
I cough again, another long, wet trail dripping from my lips.
Is it a good dream, darling?
I don't know. It feels like a nightmare. An awful, wretched nightmare.
I lean towards the sound of her voice, so musical, so lovely, even at the brink of tears. Don't cry, darling, I want to say, but thick, syrupy liquid fills my throat. No matter what troubles you, I am here. She stands at the edge of the staircase, shaking, a candlestick in hand. The steps are sticky and wet. I inch carefully, practically at a crawl, not to slip. My darling lifts the candle as I approach. In the dark of the house, its flickering flame almost blinds me. I don't see the expression on her face as she screams.
Marie? Where are you, my darling?
Every word feels like a dagger puncturing my throat. I limp down each hall, leaving a trail of steps that feel damp and heavy, slick and wet. I try the door to our bedroom, no, Marie's bedroom. I had started sleeping in the spare one when my coughing fits would wake her in the night. It was cold, so cold, alone. My darling needs a rest. The knob is slick and hard to twist, my hand slipping on the brass. Finally, I managed to push the door open. Though it's completely dark when I peer inside, I know it's empty. No warmth, no flesh, no sound of sweet breath within. I continue down the hall. I trudge, my steps heavy and wet, trying not to slip over the thick, slick surface.
Marie! What's wrong, darling? Please come out! I don't understand!
The dining room is empty, truly empty. The shelves where the china and silverware were once neatly stacked now gape, hollow. The walnut table is covered in a thick white sheet, the matching set of chairs removed. I rest against the blanketed table. My hand leaves a ruddy smear against the sheet. It must be more paint, though it's hard to make out in the dark. I need spectacles for quite some time, but Marie never had liked the bookish type. Marie! Fucking needs to see! God, like what? Like, I can barely see without my glasses. Nerd. I can't see, arsenic. So, like, imagine, like, somebody walks up, like, nerd, I don't like the bookish type. Take off your glasses. And I really just stumble around aimlessly because I just can't see anything. I continue on through the familiar yet unfamiliar house, my steps strained and hollow, my breath short, sticky, wet.
Marie! Where are you?
Marie, get this man some glasses!
Oh, Marie! It hurts! Won't you come to me?
I hear the front door slam shut. It must be freezing cold out. Why has she gone to the garden? I tread to the sound with new urgency, uncaring at the sticky, wet floors, forgetting for just a moment the pain that snaps and burns through my flesh. I reach for the oily, damp knob.
Don't! Sam! Please!
Her voice rings from behind the door.
I don't understand, darling. Have I done something to upset you?
Her sobs echo loudly. I never thought an ugly sound could come from my darling's lips, but her words.
I love you, Sam. I always will. But I can't bear to see you like this. Please. I beg of you. Return to where you came. You can't be here. I've moved on now.
What? Return where? Dearest, you aren't making any sense. Moved on. I'm your husband, Marie. What on earth is there to move on from?
Please remember, Sam. You were ill. You were ill for a long, long time. And you never recovered.
It was the fatal bad eyesight illness. It was fatal because she doesn't like the bookish type,
I know I'm unwell, Marie. But you said we would still... Are you leaving me? Because I can't care for you anymore? Is that it?
You left me. You're dead, Sam. You've been dead for more than a year.
If this is a joke, darling, it's a cruel one. Do you want me dead? Is that it? Am I better off dead to you?
My darling does nothing but sob behind the door. How quickly I regret my words. Oh, if only I could see her face, look into her eyes, reassure her and see that she loves me still. I twist the knob with slick, oily hands.
No! Don't come out! Please!
On the other end, with a sharp gasp, my darling grasps the knob closed, pushing the weight of her small frame against the weathered wood.
Don't come out!
Oh. I'm gonna let her go. I let go of the door, my hand slicking off its oily surface.
Forgive me, Marie. I can see that you don't want to speak to me right now. But whenever you do, whatever this is about, I'll be waiting in the studio.
I leave the door, leave my darling alone, sobbing in the garden. It's dark, so very dark, but dawn will soon paint that dim black sky. I retrace my slick, wet footsteps through the hall, up the staircase, once trudging, damp step at a time.
Spirits, it hurts.
It burns. I feel no breath in my lungs. My chest could be a hollow cavity, slippery and wet, pipe spilling with hot, sticky fluid.
It hurts. Oh, it hurts.
I stagger into a tall, sheet-covered object, the linen sliding off with the grasp of my clumsy, slick fingers. It's Marie's floor-length mirror.
No. Oh, no. No, 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 no!
Oh, he's so handsome. Oh, man, Sam. This is what happens when you don't get glasses. I'm in the studio, a dark, dim studio as empty as it is every night. The curtains are shut, the lamps are unlit. My palette is a mess of murky colors, rust reds, copper browns. A musky, sickly, sweetly rotting stench fills the room. I don't know why the smell of linseed oil ever bothered me. After all, I no longer breathe. The handle of the door turns behind me, slowly creaks open, and a figure steps inside. It's me! He limps more than he steps in crooked motions against the floor, dragging his body along like a wet, wide brush as spots of red pull at his feet. I watch him pull himself before the canvas.
Samuel.
It speaks in my mother's voice, a tone that could swell with warmth and derision, command or dependency, pride or disappointment in a moment's notice.
Please, give up your suffering. Give up this. Come back to the earth with me.
The hands are too slick to hold my brush. I stab it into my flesh and fix it between my bones, then drip the bristles into his blood.
Sammy.
He speaks my stepfather's voice, but without laughter or joy. In the same cadence I imagined him breathing his last breath, crimson staining his uniform, the dog tags pulled around his neck.
Don't suffer anymore, Sam. You are nothing already. Forget your pain. Return to the void with us.
My brush is drying. I plunge it into his chest, wet it with his oily breath.
Sam?
He speaks with my voice, hoarse and raspy and tired, so very, very tired.
This won't make you worthy of love. Not the world's, not Marie's, not your friends or peers or critics. Come back to our grave. End our suffering. You know I don't do this for love.
I clean my brush with the paint thinner, knocking open the jar as it spills across the jar and into the wet, soaken floor. I dry the bristles on my worn, rotting shirt, then soak it in the thick, white mucus of his tears. My words are only partially true, just as his words were not fully wrong. Neither my rotting corpse nor the memory of what once was Sam will gain a thing from this toil. I paint the hours away, or perhaps take no time at all. The clock on the wall never turns its hands, suggesting that the world lies still, the seconds never pass, and I am the only thing that moves within it. It hurts. Oh, it hurts. Heavy, syrupy tears flood my vision, fill my throat, my chest, choking me. Every movement of my hands leaves cracks in what's left of my brittle bones. He stares at me all the while, silent, still, like a mirror. If I loved him, I would stop. I would crawl to my grave like he wishes. But I love this more than I love myself. I birth him from within me. As I create, so too am I born.
And he and I are beautiful.
Oh. Hi, Sam. Oh, self-portrait. Complete yourself. Aw. Good short story. Like it. Also, I usually, I play a lot of VNs if you couldn't already tell, but I usually, don't, play anything with voices on, even in my personal time, just because, because nowadays if I'm playing like long VNs, I'm usually just like pre-playing it to play on stream, and I don't want like any of the voices to affect like how like I give them to people on Atome Tuesdays or how I do this, so I don't usually listen to them. But good voice acting, I like that. So good casting choices. Yeah, that is It Paints Me. I just wanted to do one ending for each visual novel, so that's gonna be it for this one. So I believe there's only 2 endings, I believe. There could also be, like, it looks like there's like 3 other 4 other CGs that we haven't gotten, but very good. It is free. It is free, and you can get the music as a paid DLC, and it's beautiful, like piano music. That's good. Yeah. After stream, I'm gonna definitely like be posting like a Twitter thread with everything, so you can like check it out for yourself. Very good though. Let's move on to the next one. This next one is like another short one. This is more like mystery than spooky. So let's pull it up. But this one I wanted to play for a while. I could never find an opportunity to play it. Cause like I was thinking I want to play this on stream, but it's also one of those situations where it's only me or somebody else. So, let's pull this one up. Well, first I gotta turn the sound back on. I muted everything. It looks like this one has voice acting as well, because it has voice volume on it. So, guess I can just sit back and relax for this one. Cool. Ah, here we go. Here we go. And where is it? Do I really have to use a game capture for this one? Looks like I do. It's not letting me do window capture. Okay. So this is Under the Thorns, which is a short one. I believe it came out for an Atome Jam. I think that's where I got this one. I think I could be completely wrong though, because I've been just kind of picking up a bunch of Atomes from random places recently. So yeah, this Under the Thorns is more of a mystery one, but let's go see how it is in like let's see how the voice acting is in this one. Oh wait, I should wait a sec. I gotta change the stream category. Okay. Is there an actual? Yep, there is. Okay, cool. All right. Cool, let's get started. Chapter 1. I gotta adjust volume for this. Immediately just like, oh no, the sound a little loud. Okay. The loud noise woke me from my sleep, and I reluctantly opened my eyes while still seated in the rattling carriage. Daylight had emerged while I was sleeping, casting a feeble glimmer into the dim and shabby confines of the carriage. How far are we now? With a smooth move, I pulled myself up from where I was sitting, trying to fix my messy hair. As the world around buzzed with noise, the coachman spoke to me through a small opening. You've woken up right on time. We're close now. Steady yourself and get ready to jump off. Are you certain we are in proximity? You've not much faith in folks, have you? Reasonably, my reservations were justified. He had been repeating, like a wearied mantra, that our arrival was imminent, yet with no success. Perhaps, strung by my inquisitive stare, the coachman gestured towards the crest of the hill. You see that, lass? I followed the line of his finger, and a stately manor loomed atop the elevation. Perhaps though it was too far away to discern its precise features, its sheer grandeur was unmistakable. I leaned closer to the window, striving to absorb the view, and then turned my gaze back to the coachman. What can you share about the manor? I'm just passing through, lass. I ain't got much to offer in the way of knowing stuff. Perplexed by his lack of certainty for someone of his occupation, I nodded in response. The carriage in which I had been dispatched was hardly in impeccable condition, whether it was the pall of the tobacco smoke or the jolts for the uneven terrain. My stomach had churned during the journey, and my posterior ached. In all candor, the remuneration they had offered was alluring, albeit with doubts about its authenticity. However, given the prestige of the family name, I steeled myself and persevered. I'm not entirely sure if this was a wise course of action. I watched with trepidation as the manor drew nearer. My countenance bore a trace of consternation as the formerly imperceptible features of the estate slowly coalesced into view. A fleeting moment of regret brushed against my consciousness, and I pondered whether I should have remained in the townhouse, notwithstanding the diminished pay. Irrespective of the manor's facade, the main entrance was the epitome of pristine maintenance. It stood as a constant symbol of the family's ostensible reverence for it, regardless of the anticipation of guests. In stark contrast, this manor appeared indifferent to such niceties. The towering fence, shrouded in unsightly ivy, and the corroded, peeling iron gates bespoke a manor unconcerned with aesthetics. The sky, its countenance, morphing in response, exuded not merely an eerie ambiance, but the unmistakable uncanniness. An involuntary gasp escaped me. Could there be a more perfect setting for a mystery novel? The coachman, who had been monitoring me for signs of amusement, erupted in laughter. Fret not, young lass. This is the poshest place I've ever set foot in. I had my doubts considering the ups and downs I had already faced. But what choice did I have? I straightened my shoulders and prepared for the unsettling creak of the iron gate swinging open. The carriage moved through the open gates, passing through the gardens and eventually stopping in front of the main entrance. As I got off, carrying my belongings, the sheer size of the garden momentarily captivated me. The coachman's assurance proved correct. The garden was indeed well kept, though it seemed strangely out of context. While I looked around, a voice called out to me. Miss Clara Hart? A footman. He approached with a friendly smile on his face as he extended his hand. I was ready to reciprocate with a handshake when I noticed his gaze shifting towards my luggage. I quickly shook my head. No need for you to carry the burden. Please, do not trouble yourself. It is my duty. I assure you, it's just one bag. After witnessing my hesitation, he initiated polite conversation, attempting to break the ice. Is this your first foray into serving a manor, Miss Hart? Indeed! Only last week, I was in service as Lady Jane's maid in her townhouse. Fortuitously, I had been a lady's maid for some time, and he astutely broached the topic with tact. I heard she's quite exacting. Is that so? Well, she maintains her own standards, but she's a fair employer. She did establish a multitude of rules, and I often found myself inadvertently breaking them, earning her displeasure. Oh man, I know that. Man, I know that feeling where you're just doing your job and then you break some unspoken rule and all of a sudden you're ruining somebody's life. Nevertheless, recognizing my departure was tinged with concern, and she kindly provided me with a letter of introduction to the mayor, which was a consolation. The footman responded with a reassuring smile to my answer. Our manor shares certain similarities. I trust you'll find yourself acclimated, Miss Hart. I certainly hope so. The conversation infused my voice with a natural cheerfulness as the tension from our earlier discussion faded. Life within the manor appeared less formidable with a colleague of his caliber. After guiding me to the central hall of the manor, he assumed responsibility for my luggage and departed with a brisk, confident strides. I shall attend to your luggage. I felt a sudden pang of deception. Just as the words began to form in my mind, an individual approached, striding purposely towards me. Dressed in a dignified black coat, she exuded an air of authority, her impeccable posture and immaculately coiffed hair, leaving not a single strand astray. So this is the person I am to meet. I cast an appraising glance her way. Though I speculated she might be the mistress of the manor, her attire indicated otherwise. When our eyes met, she graced me with a composed smile and extended a greeting. I have eagerly awaited your arrival. Have you found the journey to be taxing, miss? Oh, not at all. Thanks to your prearranged carriage. I am delighted to hear that. I am Olivia Quiller, the housekeeper. I'll be most appreciative if you addressed me as Mrs. Quiller. Certainly, Mrs. Quiller. And so our meeting came to a close. Mrs. Quiller promptly retrieved the pocket watch, checked the time, and proceeded to explain the schedule in a methodical, clerical fashion. As a rule, I would introduce you to Lord Robert, but given his recent indisposition, it's evident you won't be graced with his presence. In lieu of that, I've determined that I shall promptly accompany you on the tour of this manor. Is that agreeable to you? The implication leaned more towards an announcement than a question. Yet it was information I should have been privy to in advance, so I had no objections. Given the circumstances, I think it's the lone alternative. In response, Mrs. Quiller graced me with a smile of a different sort, a rather enigmatic one. Perfect. Incomprehensible words slipped from her lips. Mrs. Quiller took no notice of my attempt to inquire as she began leading the way. I followed her, feeling as if I were being abruptly steered. My eyes retraced the entrance I had entered only to see the door slowly closing behind us. In the corridor to the right of the manor house, we strolled through an area that evoked a cloister. Portraits of ancestors adorned one wall, bearing witness to their illustrious days. However, the manor's prevalent eerie atmosphere made it challenging to fully appreciate these depictions. It's somewhat disquieting to think that they appear so lifelike and might be observing me. I mulled over this while stealing a glance at Mrs. Quiller, who forged ahead. Her back was turned to me, and she continues to provide explanations whether I followed or not. While she delved into the history of the manor and the biographies of its ancestors, my understanding was limited to a general grasp of the layout. She refrained from inquiring whether I had absorbed the information, as if she had little expectation. Nonetheless, I paid close attention. She elucidated the task I would undertake within the manor. One might assume cleaning is simple, but Mrs. Quiller regarded it with a greater significance. In particular, she emphasized the importance of monitoring the entry to private rooms and whether the doors were left open or closed. In this manor house, we leave the door to an unoccupied room open. If closed, it implies the presence of guests or occupants of the house. Should you need to enter a closed room, knock and will wait a response before entering. What if there's no response? Do not enter. Request your supervisor to handle it. I shall remember that. I found myself slightly confounded, but I grasped the protocols of the manor. Mrs. Quiller, content with my composed demeanor, ascended the staircase without uttering another word, her gaze fixed upon the corridor's expanse. The next noteworthy point leads us to the bedchambers. He halted abruptly. I recoiled a few steps, narrowly avoiding a collision with Mrs. Quiller's back. Mrs. Quiller, typically serene, now appeared shaken. Mrs. Quiller? I turned my gaze toward her, pondering the nature of the disturbance. At the corridor's terminus, devoid of life amid encroaching darkness, an enigmatic figure cast a long, human-like shadow. A mysterious presence meandered, swaying as if in a spectral dance. It seemed oblivious to our existence. I felt a quiver of fear at the sight of this unfathomable phenomenon. Mrs. Quiller! I cried out, sensing an imperative need to retreat. Simultaneously, Mrs. Quiller seized my wrist, guiding us swiftly downstairs. The evasion led us into the courtyard. I curled up, shivering from the biting chill of the wind. Whereas Mrs. Quiller stood rigid, seemingly unaffected by the cold. Her eyes remained fixed on me in silence. A wordless pressure lingered, making my mouth go dry. The music is still as jaunty as ever, in this was assumed to be a horrifying scene, or something that will take us out of the jauntiness of being a new employee. Ellipses. Ellipses. After a while, Mrs. Quiller broke the silence. Lady Jane's reference letter attests to your meticulous nature and taciturn disposition. To be candid, in my previous employment, I was somewhat of a troublemaker. Not precisely a gossip, but curiosity often got the better of me. I caused Lady Jane headaches with various incidents, but never by divulging secrets. I nodded awkwardly, and Mrs. Quiller's mouth corners twitched. She draped the gentle arm around my shoulders, holding my gaze. Miss Hart, if you ever encounter such a sight, flee. It's an imperative rule you must adhere to. You mean you must? without exception. She whispers impatiently, redirecting her focus to the manor house. Believe it or not, this manor is besieged by the same particular phenomena as before. I rolled my eyes, struggling for words. What was the appropriate response in this perplexing situation? Locke was on my side if I refrained from saying, well, it's plausible considering one of the shadows is at my feet. Regardless, Mrs. Quiller seemed equally perplexed, convinced to call it a bringer of fortune. I pondered, attempting to formulate a response. I inquire because you mentioned it's a rule. Is it akin to the guidance against closing doors? It bears similarity. Mrs. Quiller mentioned you would deliver an employee handbook to my room. In a soothing tone, she reassured me of the understanding of my confusion. You needn't worry. It's a collection of rules that shall resolve themselves. Rules? If it proves challenging, inform me. I intend to maintain a well-staffed house, allowing for your return home. No! Entrust me with the responsibility I shall endeavor. Now burdened with the responsibility of providing sustenance for my family, I had no intention of retreating to my former employment. Appeased by my response, Mrs. Quiller bestowed upon me another satisfied smile. Surprisingly, the mausoleum was quite close to the manor house. By turning your head, it offered a view of the manor's right wall. A bold decision of a resident steeped in history and grandeur. The ancestor of the lord of this manor, devoted to his departed wife, orchestrated the chance. I'm assuming it means chance. The gaze upon her grave at will. In a society where arranged marriages prevailed, the fervent love struck me as eccentric. Though I was assigned to tend to the mausoleum, I wasn't given explicit instructions. Alice was made responsible to oversee my training and teach me the details of the daily tasks. Whatever Mrs. Quiller chances to me about the owner of the mausoleum seemed to go in one ear, not the other. Just as I was growing accustomed to my surroundings, I sensed an unforeseen wave of attention fixing upon me. Puzzled, I raised my head to witness a colossal figure materializing beyond the glass. The recollection of dancing shadows tensed my shoulders. Oh, Miss Quiller over there. Mrs. Quiller felt silent and followed my gaze. She then tried to assuage my fear with a smirk. Fear not. He is not one of them. Sorry? Him? He is Lord Edward, the heir to this prestigious manor. With precision, she outlined the figure against the cloudy sky. His hair, a shade of golden ash blonde, matched the clear blue sky of his eyes, and the static, calm demeanor defined him. Our gazes met, his fingers fiddling with the delicate chain of his necktie as he observed our surroundings. A look of surprise crossed his face. He attempted to communicate something to me through subtle mouth movements. I found myself captivated, studying his lips with genuine intrigue. Focus! My gaze might have lingered had not another voice snapped me back. Pardon me. I hastily clasped my hands, assuming a polite gesture, feeling my face uncontrollably warm. Oh no, he's hot! Absorbed in observing the Lord, I momentarily overlooked Mrs. Quiller's presence. Her eyes narrowed for that very reason. Could you tell me more about Lord Edward? The question, intended as an invitation, earned only a raised eyebrow from her. A momentary gaze at the window preceded a dismissive response. He is an unruly man, a difficult one to deal with. I recommend you avoid talking to him as much as possible. Oh, understood. Stiff responses left me feeling out of place, in contrast to her earlier praise of the manor. Even if he was indeed unruly, it wasn't a particularly kind characterization of him. Mrs. Quiller added a cautionary note, apparently unsatisfied with my response. Should he visit the mausoleum, give him space. He's very sensitive. Just like me. Our conversation ended there. Mrs. Quiller spoke only when explanations were necessary, and I, stunned by her continuous deflections, remained silent. Hence, sloppy induction into the manor reached its end. Oh, chapter 2. Attending to a lady's every need and overseeing a manor house were indeed desperate tasks. Alice, aiding my transition, bore a stern demeanor, leading us up and down the stairs innumerable times. By its conclusion, my limbs trembled like a fledgling foal. I'm utterly cream crackered. What does that mean? Wearingly propelling myself, nearly at the brink of collapse, I entered the servants' hall. As the sun set, a bustling crowd had gathered. I sank into the nearest chair, exhaling a heavy sigh. Ah, my limbs are aching. I hope I can rise again tomorrow. While I was massaging my weary legs and pondering, a man quietly occupied the seat across from me. He scrutinized me with a pensive stare, deeming me a stranger. Not sure if I recognize you. I'm new to the place, as you can see. Ha, no wonder you don't seem to know me. I'm Thomas. Clara. When I ignored his hand, he discreetly wiped his damp palms on his apron, a smirk settling upon his features. He then continued speaking, adopting an air of sagacity? Right you are. You've clearly had a day of it. All tuckered out, are you? Absolutely. I can barely lift a finger. Ah, that explains the lack of handshake. Well, fret not, my dear, for this culinary wizard is about to whip up something scrumptious to revive you. A short while later, Thomas reappeared, a plate in his hands. His face, softened by the desire to comfort, held a warmth that contrasted with the coldness in my stomach. The aroma of the food Thomas had painstakingly prepared filled the air, but it failed to entice my senses. I took a small taste, more of out of obligation than desire, and Thomas's face instantly became a mask of worry. Is it really that dreadful? Well, you do seem a bit unsure of yourself as a chef, wouldn't you say? Perhaps it's because I find myself playing the cook for the day. He let out a big sigh, as if the weight of the world was on his shoulders. Right, well, the thing is, Mary's up and left suddenly, which threw us into a bit of a tizzy, you see. And I've been doing my best to pick up the slack, so to speak. Who's Mary? Oh, well, she, the one who looked after the mausoleum before you, as it were. I was really surprised by Thomas's knowledge of things I had not shared. I asked, and how exactly did you deduce that I'd be the new mausoleum keeper? Well, whispers about you have been swirling about the manor for days like leaves in a storm. It'd be quite a feat to remain completely oblivious, you see. Whispers about what? Oh, mostly about your tenure, of course. We've even placed a friendly wager amongst ourselves on just how long you'd last before throwing in the towel. My eyebrows shot up in astonishment at his audacity. How could he possibly make a bet without even knowing who the other person was? Catching my disbelieving stare, he let out a disgruntled sigh. Hey, don't give me that look. I was on your side. I bet you would persist for a week. The mask of pleasantness on his face finally cracked, revealing a glimpse of the man beneath. As my disapproval became apparent, Thomas stammered out some excuse about needing to urgently attend to his duties and scurried away, seeking refuge in the kitchen. With a heavy sigh that echoed through the room, I laid down my fork and knife. The meal, unfortunately, had been a disappointing affair. I suppose I should return to my chamber. Upon entering my assigned room, I was greeted by an unexpected spectacle. To my astonishment, it was an entirely private chamber. In abodes with limited space, shared lodgings were the norm, so I expected something similar here. Am I their lost daughter or something? Huh? I hastily dismissed my unwarranted captivation, delivering a single slap to my own cheeks as a reprimand. This was not the time for frivolity, especially with the bet riding on my resilience. I needed to prioritize the organization of my attire and possessions, followed by a thorough examination of the established guidelines. It should be in the drawer. My gaze swept across the room, landing upon a delicate stack of papers precariously perched atop the dresser. I snatched it up and delved into the instructions. Let me see. Employee Handbook. 0. Manor Layout. The estate consists of 3 distinct areas: the main manor house, the separate annex building, and a garden. The manor house spans 3 floors above ground and 1 basement level. The left wing is dedicated to employee quarters, while the right wing houses the private residential areas. The basement serves as a storage and culinary space, with certain areas accessible only to authorized servants. The annex building comprises 2 above-ground stories and a basement level. This building is solely intended for guest accommodation. The garden is divided into 3 sections: a carriageway, outer yard, and a courtyard. 4. Unbreakable policy, a code to abide by. Here, manor manifestations, strange and unexplained events that can occur within the manor. failure to comply with the following policy will absolve us of responsibility for any resulting incidents. All occurrences within the manor must be kept secret from the outside world. This is a contractual obligation, and any breach will result in a disciplinary action in accordance with the policy. Do not enter the corridors where the shadowy figures are known to manifest. During daylight hours, these corridors often become uninhabited by humanoid shadows. While no physical contact has been reported, we suspect potential danger, and entry is strictly prohibited. If your duties require you to be in one of these areas, inform your supervisor and seek alternative assignments. Vacant chamber protocol. Leave vacant chambers ajar, not sealed. Out of respect for our guests, the entry may only occur after a polite knock and audible confirmation. If an unanswered knock is received, seek a supervisor to address the issue. No movement allowed after sunset. For safety reasons, the manor operates during daylight hours only, prohibiting authorized personnel from moving after sunset. Occasional noises may occur after hours. We advise ignoring them, as they typically subside on their own. Sounds at your door often originate from night watchmen. Please do not be alarmed. Lord's family's meals follow this predetermined schedule. Sitting at the table and presenting food will always increase the number of occupants by 1. Serving guests will also increase the head count by 1 person. If someone joins mid-meal, non-compliance is permitted. Avoid lengthy conversations with Lord Edward. Ignore the guy. We don't speak about him. Interaction is permitted when necessary, but refrain from initiating conversations unless invited. If someone brings business to Lord Edward, promptly direct them to Olivia Quiller. Unauthorized access to outbuildings is strictly prohibited, except for stables and the mausoleum. Currently, outbuildings are restricted to designated personnel and the family of the manor's proprietor. If accompaniment to an outbuilding is required, obtain permission from your superiors beforehand. My mind reeled from the intricate details of the instructions, causing a dizzying sensation, but the defeated sire reluctantly set the document aside. The complexity of the instructions left me staggered, with the barrage of unanswered questions lingering in my thoughts. I mean, there's ghosts? I thought this would be a little more subtle. This is hard to believe. Yet duty beckoned, and the handbook remained a necessity for the present. I swiftly stored it away instead of organizing my garments and provisions. My modest belongings found their proper places with ease. Disposing of my day's attire, I hung them neatly and settled into the bed, closing my eyes. I surrendered to a surge of thoughts. The imposing exterior of the manor might suggest otherwise, but the inhabitants did not seem inherently wicked. As the day's events began to fade in the background, I found myself replaying the faces and voices of those I had met. The garrulous coachman, the perceptive footman, Mrs. Quiller, a rather enigmatic person, and the meticulous supervisor, Alice. And then there's Thomas, the one whose condescending manner left an unpleasant aftertaste. But it was Lord Edward, the heir to the manor, who held my attention. His gaze, faintly tinged with concern, lingered in my mind, a stark contrast to the resentment he seemed to invoke in others. It didn't seem that bad. My mind, teeming with thoughts, sought solace in slumber. A yawn involuntarily escaped my lips as I rubbed the corners of my eyes, succumbing to the overwhelming fatigue that had enveloped me. In the blink of an eye, I drifted into the realm of dreams, leaving behind the day's events. The jarring resonance of a knock tore me from the brink of sleep. With a groggy mind, I surveyed my surroundings, only to discover the room shrouded in impenetrable darkness. Struggling to regain my bearings, I hastily assessed my attire, then cautiously approached the door, my thoughts racing with impending disruption. A sudden realization struck me, and I instinctively held back my words. The established guidelines clearly stated that any visit extending beyond their designated working hours was to be dismissed. This was a policy adhered to by all, and I had no doubts that my fellow servants would uphold it as well. Yet, if this were the case, why did the insistent knocking persist? Oh, I think there's like an error. Ooh, that's 2 for 2 for the errors I've noticed. Are they not informed that this room is occupied? The handbook's mention of night watchmen suggests the knocking could be from one of them, operating from within the confines of the policy. It raised the question of whether it would be wise to open the door and inform the night watchman of my presence. As the knocking continues, I engage in a lengthy deliberation. here. You know what? I'm opening it. Decorum, one would presume, demands a moment's pause to ensure an invitation before answering a knock. However, the insistent, urgent rhythm of the knocking hinted at an impending crisis. Alarmed, I inquired, eager to identify the person on the other side. Who's there? The door stilled from its insistent battering, replaced by some familiar voice that echoed through the corridor. It's me, Olivia Quiller. With a press of my lips and an eye roll, I hesitantly cracked open the door. Mrs. Quiller's pitiful expression met me from the other side. My apologies. Never in my wildest dreams could I imagine being sent home for violating the rules on my very first night. Thomas would have been in stitches if he'd seen this, his raucous laughter filling the room. As I steeled myself for a harsh reprimand, Mrs. Quiller, with an unexpected kindness, offered me words of consolation. Unwind myself, I came to check knowing this could happen. I inferred that multiple individuals had faced repercussions for the reckless disregard of the rules, judging by Mrs. Quiller's unannounced visit. Despite my initial apprehension, I am immediately grateful that no disciplinary action was forthcoming. A sigh of relief involuntarily escaped my lips. Do keep in mind, though, a second lapse is impermissible. Indeed. With a sigh of resignation, I closed the door behind Mrs. Quiller, watching her retreating figure disappear around the corner. The lingering embarrassment of my close call threatened to engulf me, and I was on the verge of burying my flushed face in the pillow when another knock compelled me to reopen the door. How? I just watched Mrs. Quiller walk away, and I closed the door behind her. Who could possibly be knocking on my door if not her? My body, paralyzed by a mixture of horror and anticipation, remained motionless, as if suspended in time. As dawn broke, sleep continued to elude me, even my fatigue as my unwelcome companion. I persevered through the morning, but the solitude of the mausoleum proved too much for my weary body. With each methodical sweep of the floor, my eyelids succumbed to the allure of sleep. My head sank lower into the warm sun's embrace. Let me just...
とても疲れているようですね。
Yo, he's Japanese? I jolted awake. Oh, I didn't know it was voiced in Japanese. That was the last thing I was expecting. I guess, like, only he's voiced? A figure emerged from the shadows, his presence casting a chill over me. It was the Lord, the opposing figure I had warned against. His hands gently cradled a floral arrangement, presumably a tribute to the departed. My lips quivered, torn between embarrassment and awkwardness. Hello! It's quite a splendid afternoon, isn't it? The Lord, taken back for a transient moment, revealed a tranquil smile.
はい、いい天気です。あなたには違うみたいだけど。
I'm not even fucking reading that. No. The Lord is Japanese. She just happens to know Japanese and understand it very, very nicely. Well, I couldn't get much sleep last night.
おや、どうして？
It just, something unsettling occurred during the night.
ああ。
Lord Edward nodded sagely, his expression indicating he had grasped the nature of the unsettling in bed.
私はもう慣れていますが、初めての方にとっては恐ろしいことかもしれませんね。
Has this occurred frequently for you?
お母さんが亡くなってからずっとですね。
With an air of poised reverence, Lord Edward swept past me, movements exuding an effortless grace. He gently lowered himself to the ground, his hands carefully placing the bouquet of flowers upon the tombstone. As the sunlight brushed against his closed eyelids, an ethereal glow emanated from the corners of his eyes, casting a mesmerizing aura around him. It was a sight of such captivating beauty, almost surreal, that I found myself questioning the reality of the scene unfolding before me. With a final murmur of prayer, Lord Edward gently opened his eyes, his expression serene and composed.
ともあれ、この邸宅に来たことを歓迎します。もし何かあったら、気軽に話してください。
His considerate attitude started to dull my suspicions. Please, call me Clara. A sudden chill swept down my spine, wrenching my attention away from my task. As I turned, I found myself locked in Alice's gaze, her expression as unreadable as ever, a broom held firmly in her grasp. Her unexpected presence disoriented me, as I had been under the impression I could be working alone today. Sweeping. Not done yet. Anticipating the scolding that seemed to loom, I shot Edward a momentary apprehensive look. His composure suggested that he anticipated Alice's actions, and he discreetly turned away.
仕事中でしたね。続けてください。
Alice's stern countenance eased as the man entered the house. He looked at me nervously. Oh, I'm sorry, I was rigid. It's alright, nothing untoward happened. In fact, he seemed pretty kind. Kind? You haven't witnessed the low-life nature of his. Alice's head swayed in disapproval as she whispered her disgust at the idea, but her reaction barely made a dent in my thoughts. Our interaction was brief and unremarkable. He simply expressed his concern for my well-being. However, I knew Alice would dismiss my account with disbelief, prompting me to release a heavy sigh. Who am I to trouble myself over such matters? He's the heir to the grand estate, and I am but a humble servant. I have my hands full with my duties, that's for certain. With a resolute shake of my head, I pushed my thoughts aside and stepped into the manor. This distraction may be swift, but the work is eternal. Good morning, everyone. Clara, how come you were up this How come you were up this early? I happened to get up early today. Plus we have deep cleaning coming up, don't we? Oh my god, Bruce. Our little Clara has grown up to be a big maid. I've always been a maid. Their playful snorts hung in the air, hinting at their enduring perception of me as a familiar face. I quelled a sigh and gathered my equipment, knowing I'd have to navigate the manor yet again as a new kid. 2 months have passed since I arrived at the manor, which meant that Thomas would be drowning in regret by now over his empty wallet. But in their eyes, I remain a mere newcomer. Well, that's a shame for you, but I'm already feeling confident. With a murmured sigh, I embarked on my ascent, my gaze drawn to the ethereal sunlight streaming through the windows. The corridors, once steeped in an enigmatic aura of mystery and trepidation, now seemed less ominous, their gloom dispelled by the gentle embrace of the morning sun. Ah, there's that shadow again. Despite my growing familiarity with the manor's layout, I still couldn't shake off the lingering sense of disquiet that clung to its walls. With the furrow increasing my brow, I swiftly pivoted and descended the stairs, my eyes darting nervously away from the lurking shadow. Opting for a longer route, I decided to circumvent the left corner, my heart pounding with a mix of apprehension and determination. The shadow's ominous presence loomed large, casting a pall over my otherwise resolute steps. I'm running late. Anticipation quickened my steps as I rounded the bend, for I sensed the presence of one waiting me. Good morning! Have you come to make another visit to the mausoleum today? True to my expectations, Edward sat poised before the tombstone, our invisible connection drawing him to this familiar spot. As I approached, his face lit up with a gentle as radiant as a flower in full bloom, a silent welcome that transcended his words.
今日に限って日差しがよく当たるね。
I agree, it's almost spring. Upon a closer acquaintance with Lord Edward, I discovered a stark contrast between the perception that others had instilled in me and the reality of the man himself. He possessed a depth of compassion that defied the callous reputation he bore, a trait that slowly chipped away at the preconceived notions I had harbored. My instincts, though often dismissed as unreliable by those who deemed me insensitive, seemed to be offering a more nuanced understanding of Lord Edward. Through repeated interactions, I began to discern qualities that had eluded me before, a tapestry of kindness and empathy woven to the core of his being. Even now, he was a silent oasis of support amid the flurry of fallen leaves while I raked the grass. Like a gardener attending to his plants, he listened attentively as I shared my thoughts, nurturing them with his presence. Could the frequent turnover of the mausoleum attendants be the reason? But it's been 2 months already.
時間が経てばきっと良くなるだろう。トーマスはもう何も言ってないよ。
Only because he lost the bet. My lord, I don't come across as childish, do I?
クララは大人のように見えるよ。
You're not being sarcastic, are you?
褒め言葉だよ。
Uncertain of the propriety of a servant forming such a close bond with their employer, I nonetheless found solace in the quiet moments shared with Lord Edward. As our conversation flowed, I was struck by the unexpected parallels between us, a realization that sparked both wonder and curiosity. It was a curious phenomenon, the way a lord and a servant, despite their vastly different stations, could discover a common ground that bound them together.
そういえば、おじがハガキを送ってきたよ。
Lord Brandon?
うん。今回は海を渡るそうだ。到着したら、写真を送ってくれると言っていたんだ。
That sounds exciting. I'd love to travel like that someday.
そうだね。なんて美しいんだろう。
Edward's expression softened into a wistful reverie, as if he were already aboard a ship, slicing through the waves on his own grand adventure. A youthful vibrancy, previously concealed by his usual stoicism, now radiated from his features. For the first time, he looked his actual age. I placed my rake aside and settled myself down in a comfortable distance away. Why not travel when you have the opportunity?
そうできたらいいのだが。
An awkward smile smeared across Edward's face, his voice trailing off as he hesitated to continue. It was clear he was dodging a particular subject, most likely the illness of Robert, the manor's ruler. I completely understand your hesitation. It's a sensitive topic. Edward's lips moved silently, forming and discarding words, until finally he tried to mask his disconcert with a smile over his face.
ありがとう、クララ。
The morning slipped away quickly, filled with lively conversation and laughter. The lunch hour had flown by, and now Edward, filled with regret, actively sought to help with their remaining cleanup. Unfortunately, his efforts at cleaning proved less than fruitful, creating more work than he intended. As they organized the cleaning supplies, a sudden sound pierced the silence, drawing my attention. Bruce stood there. Who's Bruce? His arms folded across his chest, a playful smile dancing on his lips. Here we go again. Blimey, Claire, where have you been hiding this morning? Now, Bruce, if I may remind you, my duties lie with the upkeep of the mausoleum. You've been with Lord Edward again. What's the meaning of again? It's not like we're glued at the hip or anything. Oh, really? Don't think I haven't noticed what's brewing? Honestly, Bruce, give it a rest. It's not what you think. I cut off Bruce's inference with a firm voice, needing to focus on the precise task at hand. Bruce gave a nonchalant shrug, his unconcern evident in his casual posture. Come on, spill the beans. Everyone's nosy about where you've been all morning. Oh, please drop it, Bruce. I'm already on edge after bumping into that thing again today. That's it? Just because of that one little beastie? Doesn't make much sense, does it? What if I told you I was struggling to rake leaves? Well, that could be tiring work, I suppose. Bruce, I know this may sound silly, but you know how long it can take to learn something new. Don't make me feel bad about it. Bruce grinned broadly, showing off his crooked teeth that made him look a bit intimidating. I kept my face blank, refusing to let it get to me. Alright, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt this time. Well, thanks for nothing. But better watch your step with Lord Edward. No nattering, that's the rule. I turned and walked away, feeling a slight chill despite the warm day. It was difficult to tell a lie, especially one so out of character. But nobody's interested in befriending Lord Edward other than me. Olivia's words about Lord Edward's rebellious and unpredictable nature echoed in my mind. Despite Lord Edward and Lord Robert and Lord Edward being the masters of the manor, everyone seemed to unquestionably accept Olivia's portrayal of him. They don't believe me, but he's such a nice person, why can't they see it? Despite Edward's insistence on leaving them alone if they weren't open to conversation, I dissented. His lack of assertiveness bothered me, especially since respect was rightfully his due as a family member and an employer. I won't let him continue withdrawing from those around him. Drawing strength from Lady Jane's wisdom about relationships, I pushed the door open. Once inside, I was informed that Olivia had summoned me. Come in. I closed the door softly and approached her. The room was overflowing with papers and envelopes, clearly neglected due to the Lord's absence. Clara, at your service, ma'am. Taking a deep breath to steady my nerves, I offered a greeting. Olivia, her eyes momentarily glued to the documents before her, eventually looked up and removed her glasses. With a gentle press of a finger to her forehead, she acknowledged my presence. Welcome in, something animated. Hope you're having a fantastic one. Oh, it's you! Have a seat. We're doing a mystery, spooky Atome games, or VNs today. Not Atome, it's mainly VNs. I took a seat in the chair in front of her, perfect for a long, relaxing conversation. My desire to depart grew stronger with each passing moment. How can I help you? Alice happened to mention you've been working through your lunch break, Clara. Is that so? Well, I was told that Mr. Robert cares for the mausoleum, so I haven't summoned you to reprimand you. I don't disapprove of hard work in the slightest. Comma, ellipses, I appreciate your understanding. However, I must insist that you don't skip meals. Feeling myself from Olivia's potential dismissal, I was met instead with unexpected praise for my meticulous work. This surprise was compounded by my previous anticipation of accusations napping from either Alice or... Okay, I think the localization for the... Because I'm remembering like where I got this from. I believe there's like a indie Japanese studio that put this out for free. I don't think they chose the best localization. So, ooh. As I contemplated whether to rise, Olivia abruptly began divulging details of her personal situation. Olivia, to be honest, the Lord hasn't been feeling quite himself lately. Oh no, was that so? Edward's downcast expressions made sense now. This is what weighed heavily in his mind. Olivia's gentle smile and nod suggested a misunderstanding of my words. Yes, thanks to that, I'm in charge of his care. Thanks to that, I blinked, momentarily confused by Olivia's cryptic comment. Since I am unable to leave the manor, I'd like you to pick up the medical supplies in my stead. My jaw dropped at the enticing offer. Pardon? If it poses too much of an inconvenience for you, there's no obligation. Not at all, it's not difficult at all. Olivia's unexpected compliments were understandable now. Given the circumstances, I have little choice but to accept her offer. Recognizing the implication of Olivia's words and my own lack of options, I simply offered a smile. That settles it then. I'll notify you when we're scheduled. For now, concentrate on the primary tasks. As you wish. I'm counting on you, Clara. A grateful nod escaped my... Oh. Oh no. A grateful nod escaped my lips. Developers, you need to invest a little bit. I know this is a free release. This is the free release, but asking the bewilderment that churned within me. Was entrusting such a task to a new maid truly wise? Perhaps Lady Jane's recommendation spoke volumes of my capabilities. Surely Olivia wouldn't assign this responsibility without unwavering assurance of my reliability. Wouldn't you agree, my lord?
まあ、オリビアはそんな紹介状一つで心を変える人ではないから、ただ君のことが気に入ったんじゃないか?
What aspect of my character?
オリビアだけが知っているだろう。
Edward lowered himself on the grassy ground. I took a seat beside him. Though I harbored some discontent, I nodded. I trust the journey will not be overly strenuous?
魚者がちゃんと連れて行ってくれるだろう。心配いらないよ。
Huh. I still have some butterflies in my stomach. Have you ever been there by any chance? Edward's head denied the question with a subtle shake. These trips were usually left to the servants, but his expression hinted at something unspoken. As I released a heavy sigh, Fugacious concept blossomed in my mind, leading me to redirect my focus. So, I'm not sure how they localize this. Like, I was thinking it at the beginning because, like, I had mistaken it for another indie one that I also have in mind for later, but I don't think I'm playing it tonight. So So at first I was just like, oh, this is like in the back of my head, I was like, oh, this is kind of weirdly written sometimes. But now that I like remembered, like, you know, when he started speaking Japanese, all of a sudden I was like, oh, it's the other one. It's the localized one. And now I'm just like, ooh, ooh, okay. The sea, huh? Alice mentioned the harbor near our destination. Why don't we venture there together? The path stretched slightly longer than anticipated, but with brisk steps, we could chase the setting sun and reach the manor before dusk painted the sky. The harbor, apart from the sandy expanse of the beach, held its own captivating allure. I gazed up at Edward with enthusiasm, but he appeared somewhat perplexed.
それはちょっと
If you're concerned about your father, he should be alright. We'll only be away for a day.
うんそれもあるけどやっぱりできないごめんね
A shadow of regret crossed Edward's face as he gently declined my suggestion. His lips pursed slightly, and his usually bright eyes seemed to cloud over with a hint of sorrow. The vibrancy in Edward's deep azure eyes dimmed like the dying embers of a fire, mirroring the unfathomable depths of the ocean. A veil of disguised emotion clouded his face, hinting at a hidden turmoil within. The untold words hung heavy in the air, a tangible barrier between us. Edward's clenched jaw and furrowed brows betrayed the secret that he chose not to share with me. Oh, hey, Edward. A wave of wistfulness washed over his face, momentarily morphing his feature into a mask of near anguish, but the storm quickly subsided, replaced by a quiet resignation that settled upon his countenance like a veil.
クララ君の言う通り僕には屋敷を出ない他の理由があるんだでも君には言いたくない
Oh, I see.
うんごめんね
A sharp pang of disappointment pierced my heart as he drew a line, like a cold blade severing the thread of intimacy. Yet I clenched my jaw and forced my muscles into a mask of neutrality, determined not to betray the storm raging within me. I knew that our bond, though cherished, lacked the depth of intimacy that warranted the sharing of every secret. We were not confidants in the truest sense. The realization settled upon me like a heavy cloak, dampening the spark of hope that had flickered within me. Despite the churning turmoil within, I forced the corners of my lips upward in a semblance of a smile. I must have disturbed you. Please excuse my rudeness.
いやクララ全然迷惑じゃないよ
Despite the shadow of a doubt that crossed his face earlier, Edward's demeanor changed, radiating eagerness.
むしろ嬉しかった
His words filled me with a sense of perplexity. Despite possessing the freedom to depart, Edward seemed inexplicably confined within the manor. People treated him as a liability, despite being employed by him and his family. And Edwards endured it all with an unwavering submissiveness, never venturing beyond the manor's walls. It became glaringly obvious that the secrets he hoarded close to his chest were the missing pieces of the puzzle of existence. Chapter 3. Claire, Mrs. Quiller requests your presence in her room. Hearing my name, I was instantly transported back to the conversation we had just shared. My curiosity peaked. The memory of her request, an errand needing my assistance, surfaced in my thoughts. Setting aside the cleaning supplies, I hurried to Olivia's quarters, recognizing the urgency in her tone and responding with a decisive knock on the door. Come in. Papers still littered the room, testament to the ongoing task of organization that Olivia diligently undertook. The muted words felt like a growing weight in my chest, forcing me to interrupt the symphony of rustling papers that finally make myself known. Good morning, Mrs. Quiller. Ah, Clara, you're here. Thought it might be someone else. Olivia reached into her arms. and retrieved the pair of papers. In her arms? These letters note down the symptoms of illness. Please be careful not to lose them. Certainly, I will be cautious. Olivia confirmed that she would call me once the carriage arrived tomorrow, including a map for good measure. Her thoughtfulness left me speechless, making my worry shared with Edward the previous day seem utterly trivial. I apologize for the urgency, but precision is crucial since Lord will be relying on those medications. So don't forget to obtain the medication directions from the doctor. Yes, I'll ensure to get them. After carefully folding the paper, I tucked it securely into my front pocket. In the midst of my actions, Olivia's voice pierced the air, carrying the weight of a sudden recollection. By the way, Clara, whispers have reached me that you're spending much time with the young lord. Is there any truth to that? Oh no, of course not. Though burst seemed to buy my act, Olivia's discerning eyes revealed the truth beneath the surface. A skeptical frown creased Olivia's features, communicating her disbelief without a single spoken word. I had my own suspicions. I know where to place them. Well, I don't blame you. Lord Edward is a wily man. He seemed innocent. Her words caused me considerable distress, prompted me to attempt a defense. Fortunately, my discontent failed to elicit any response from Olivia. And with that innocence of his, he managed to make 13 servants quit their jobs. Clara, I have a duty to protect the servants, and that includes you. You'll have to keep in mind that everything I say, even if it seems harsh, is to keep you safe. Understood, ma'am? A sigh escaped my lips as I pushed open the door and stepped out into the hallway. My heart throbbed with a dull ache, a physical echo of the turmoil brewing within me. If Edward truly is what Olivia claims, then what has been his motive in engaging with me all this time? But the headache quickly faded, leaving no trace of my present self. Who was I fooling? I was once Lady Jane's fiery maid, or the rebel punished pun-filled, but forever proud. Or at least that's who I was before I came here. Being bold in words is simpler than putting into action. The recent warnings echoed in my mind. Oh, mostly about your tenure, of course. Oh yeah, the flashback. They're essentially telling me to avoid Edward like the plague, but he's not exactly someone I can easily dismiss. Ignoring him altogether is an impossibility. After all, he's my employer. I must say, their suggestion that I simply disregard my employer is quite perplexing. It seems like they've lost touch with the realities of the workplace. With a heavy sigh, I continued wiping down the tombstones. I went under Thorns once. Ouch. Oh no, Errol. Welcome in, Errol. I hope you're having a fantastic one. I'm reading visual novels today. This one kind of sad because I was actually looking forward to reading this one, but it kind of it looks like it's getting a botched localization. It's a free to play otome from Japan, and ooh. Hey, never pat your head. I pat your head. Got him. The more I think about it, the more I doubt. It's getting way too complicated.
何がそんなに難しいの?
I mean, I gasped escaped my lips as I flung the mopping cloth at Edward. With practiced ease, he snagged out of the air as if he anticipated my outburst. I hesitated, unsure whether to commend his reflexes, honed after countless days of dodging my impromptu projectiles. Locked in a wordless duel, our eyes met, and Edward's face gradually flushed a deep crimson.
どうしてそんなに人をじっと見るの?
I think my brain's been addled by the things people have been saying.
僕が?
Including you too. Though the blame primarily rested on the other's shoulders, I mused inwardly. My gaze remained fixed on Edward's eyes. I peered into his eyes, searching for a trace of the villain they claimed he was. Yet his eyes held no hint of malice, only a tinge of exhaustion. Despite the warnings of others, I could not bring myself to treat Edward with disdain. With a timid glance around, I began narrating the events that had unfolded. My story left Edward's face ashen, his features etched with a profound sense of gravity.
オリビアがそう言ったの? 僕が13人を追い出した暴れん坊だと?
Even though I can't prove it, I'm telling the truth.
まさか。クララ、僕は君を信じている。ただ、オリビアがそのような噂を広めたことに少し困惑しているだけだ。
Edward paused, his eyes meeting mine with a steely determination that spoke volumes.
クララ、証明したいことがあるんだ。よかったら今夜、お墓に出てきてくれる?
Tonight?
君が嫌なら来なくてもいいよ。もうそんなこと言わない。
The echo of Olivia's disapproval lingered in my mind as a reminder of the trust I had betrayed. Yet, Edward's desperate expression pierced through my defenses, making me question my resolve. Did I trust him and break the rules? I'm trusting Edward. If you ask me, the answer is undeniably a resounding yes. In a rather peculiar turn of events, I am convinced that the Edward I encountered was a man of profound authenticity. What can I do for you? Edward's eyes widened in astonishment as he grasped the implication behind my question. His jaw clenched tightly, attempting to suppress a surge of emotions. He then methodically outlined the plan.
12時にここで会おう。
With a gentle press, he placed his pocket watch in my palm, his eyes filled with a silent promise. My fingers traced the contours of the watch's lid, and I nodded understanding. The task was simple enough. The rules of this matter are not definitive. Despite my transgressions, Olivia's forbearance hints at a measure of flexibility. That's why I'm still allowed to remain in this manner, and even converse with Edward one sports day. Besides, I can recall the employee handbook's mention of night watchmen. This assured that the corridors posed no true threat. If an unsettling feeling crept into my heart, I could swiftly retreat to the safety of my room. And if, against all odds, my daring escapade failed, I could always resort to begging Lady Jane for a favor once more. With a reckless glint in my eyes, I met Edward's gaze. With a furtive glance at my pocket watch, I grasped the doorknob, my fingers trembling slightly. But the hinges, generously oiled, yielded to my touch without a single creak, allowing the door to open silently. Doors to empty rooms need to be open, and I'll make an exception this time. The weight of 4 transgressions pressed down on me, each one a stone in my heart. The air cracked with the potential for expulsion, a fearsome storm brewing. However, a defiant spirit, a glimmering candle in the darkness, ignited within me. With a weary sigh, I slipped out, the door closing with a final thud, leading my actions to be judged by the uncertain hand of fate. From the vantage point of the master bedroom window, the mausoleum stood unmissable. This meant its presence dominated the landscape directly opposite the serpent's quarters. With the urgency of a fugitive, I sprinted across the first floor corridor, the feeling of a thief clinging to my skin. My heart pounded in my chest, each footstep echoing in the stillness, every shadow that held the potential danger, and I was primed to vanish into the darkness at a moment's notice. Yet the anticipated encounter never materialized. The profound silence that shrouded the manor house instilled a sense of unease, making me question the presence of any night watchmen altogether. Yeah, thief! Yeah, who the fuck would be a thief? Is anyone here? With a murmured word barely audible, I stepped into the courtyard. The stillness of the night was shattered by the sudden intrusion of an orange glow, slowly but steadily approaching. I retreated into the shadows of the trees, peeking cautiously from behind a sturdy trunk. If anyone was bold enough to flout the rules, I reasoned, it could only be Edward. However, as the approaching figure materialized in the moonlight, my heart lurched, and the blood drained from my face, leaving me pale and trembling. Huh? A figure emerged from the darkness, her form obscured by a flowing robe. It was Olivia, her imposing frame barely concealed by the garment. Despite the wind whipping at the lantern in her hand, its flame revealed a captivating aura that transcended an attempt at anonymity. My eyes glued to her every move, I watched her progress with a mixture of trepidation and fascination. That path leads to the annex building. What could possibly be going on in the empty annex building at this late hour? My curiosity simmered, urging me to follow Olivia's footsteps with cautious vigilance. Olivia's pace faltered after a short distance, and she paused before a dilapidated structure. Halfway between the courtyard and the opposing annex building, I had caught a glimpse of it earlier. The cabin appeared ready to crumble at any moment, its weathered timbers groaning under the weight of neglect. Olivia, however, seemed unfazed by its precarious state. With a practiced hand, she opened the door and slipped inside. As the door creaked shut, I carefully approached and gave the knob a gentle turn. Of course she wouldn't leave it unlocked. Something of an immense significance must have been concealed within those walls, evident in the deliberate act of securing the door at that unsettling hour. My mind raced with possibilities in the urge to unravel the truth, but then, the weight of my initial business came crashing down, leaving me no choice but to turn away, a frustrated sigh escaping my lips. Huh, well, she is the housekeeper, so I guess working overnight shouldn't be entirely unexpected. If she had to sneak around like that in the middle of the night, it must have been way more urgent than I first thought. I attempted to rationalize her actions, justifying them in my mind, as I turned and walked away, yet the weight of my concern remained, manifesting in the heaviness of my steps. Reaching the mausoleum, I found Edward leaning against the cold stone, his eyes closed in contemplation. Bathed in the soft moonlight, he seemed unaware of his hair glowing an ethereal blue, its color intensified by the night. This gave him an air of quiet mystique. My lord, I'm here. The sound of my call reached him, drawing his eyes open gradually. A gentle smile, like the first rays of dawn, spread upon his face.
よく来てくれたね。大変じゃなかった？
Not at all, I'm a regular here by now.
そう？よかったね。迎えに行くことができなくて心配だったんだ。
He gathered the blanket that had been resting on his lap.
話が長くなりそうだから準備したよ。
I'm alright. I'm not feeling the chill too much. I extended my hand with haste, hoping to convince him of the mild temperature, but Edward didn't seem to believe me. No, really, I mean it, my lord. She put the blanket on. Edward's hand appeared, palm open and inviting, his fingers outstretched like a bridge waiting to be crossed. I locked my eyes with him, and then intertwined our fingers. He slowly pulled me closer, the warmth of his touch radiating through my palm. He led me to the seat beside him, his gentle tug at a silent command to join him.
これはどう？こうすれば二人ともかけられるけど。
Edward was draping the blanket over our shoulders when his hand stilled, blanket suspended in midair. A gasp escaped his lips, not from exertion, but from the sudden awareness of our proximity. The warmth of his presence intensified under the shared blanket. I turned to look at him, drawn in by his nearness. The silence stretched, thick and heavy, until Edward, like a rusty wind-up toy, began to turn his head. His cheeks, flushed with a rosy glow, were visible in the moonlight's soft luminescence.
あ、ごめん。近すぎた。
It's alright, you're just trying to be thoughtful.
気まずかったら立ってもいいよ。いや、僕が立った方がいいね。
But I'm perfectly fine, my lord. Please remain seated. My attempt to rise from the ground became a comedic spectacle as my feet tangled in the treacherous depths of the blanket. Edward, the unwitting participant in my impromptu performance, attempted to regain his balance, but our efforts were doomed to failure. We rolled across the floor in a flurry of limbs. When we finally came to a stop, our faces were only inches apart. I couldn't help but laugh at the ridiculousness of the blanket engulfing us like a playful octopus. Octopus? Edward, caught in the unexpected turn of events, soon joined in, our laughter filling the night with joy and a touch of self-deprecating humor. After a while, breathless and grinning, we untangled ourselves and continued our conversation. The memory... I think a flurry of limbs is a monk movement D2, probably. The memory of our shared clumsiness forever etched in our minds.
大丈夫？
I laughed so hard I can barely stand up straight.
実は僕も。
The seriousness of our intense conversation was swept away by the wave of embarrassment. In its wake, a lighter atmosphere emerged, filled with playful laughter. The shift in mood allowed me to reframe a question, infusing it with a touch of humor that mirrored the newfound ease we now shared. Now that the air is cleared, perhaps you'd like to share what brings you here tonight.
二人で気楽に話がしたかったんだ。
The day felt suffocating, filled with the weight of countless eyes watching our every move. The persistent scrutiny of other servants made it difficult for Edward and me to find a comfortable space for a private conversation. Edward gave me a hefty sigh and pushed himself into a seated position.
君が僕を信頼しているのか知りたかったし。
Without question, I trust you, my lord.
うん。今は僕もそう思っている。
The rigidity of his features softened, replaced by an expression that spoke of ease and comfort. The seriousness that once clouded his eyes was now replaced by a spark of youthful spirit. This wasn't a setback but a revelation. It warmed my heart to see him finally open up and reveal his true self. When he became aware of the intensity of my gaze, Edward gently looked away.
うん。それじゃあ少し歩こうか。夜に見る庭園はかなり美しいんだ。
Garden? It's probably too dark to see much, wouldn't you say? The garden, which I had noticed through the corridor windows before coming here, was completely shrouded in an impenetrable darkness. But Edward, his hand outstretched in unwavering confidence, dispelled it with a reassuring gesture.
行ってみればわかるよ。
A kind soul had preemptively lit the lamps, alleviating my concern as a soft glow illuminated the path. That's what gave him his confidence, I reckoned, having a look around. My word, this place is a complete metamorphosis from its earlier state.
夜の庭は邸宅の自慢なんだ。以前はここで一晩中パーティーを開いていたみたいなんだよ。
Don't tell me you still do that, do you?
いろんな事情が重なってね。
Edward's voice, though laced with a hint of worry, carried a hopeful melody I hadn't heard before.
お父さんが全快されたらまた始めようかと思う。
I have full confidence that he will recover. Lifting the candle beside me, I met Edward's warm smile, and we began our walk. The air hung heavy until we reached the fountain, where he finally broke the silence and spoke.
君も知っているだろうが、この邸宅では誰も僕に話しかけてくれない。
It probably has something to do with Mrs. Quiller's orders.
単に指針のためではない。クララ、僕は。
Edward's lips became a tight line, the subject still a thorny barrier to his voice. That's a weird way of. The candlelight flickered and danced in his hazy blue eyes, reflecting the turmoil within. Sensing his struggle, I reached out, a silent offering of comfort. Perhaps we can discuss this in matters like, girl, we're here, we snuck out at midnight, we're hearing the fucking backstory.
次はないかもしれない。
He murmured in a voice trembling with unease. Startled, I yelped and flinched. My focus had been solely on him, rendering me oblivious to the stone beak jutting out from the ground. Acting swiftly, Edward wrapped his arm around me, but inadvertently... Wait, what's on the ground? The stone beak? Like a piece of a statue? Of a bird statue? I don't know, man. This localization's been weird. And not the best. The shortened candle tumbled down, its flames sputtering and dying into darkness. Someone bury a bird, a stone bird. A moment of silence settled upon us before Edward cupped my cheek, his touch gentle and reassuring.
大丈夫?
Yes, my lord, but the candlelights. With a heavy sigh escaping my lips, I felt the tension ease from Edward's embrace as he loosened his hold.
音がしたから人が来るだろう。部屋まで連れて行ってあげる。
Oh my god. I assure you I'm alright, please proceed ahead of me.
いや、僕が呼び出したのに、一人にさせるのはちょっとあれだよ。
But I'm your servant.
どうせ戻るでしょ?
What do you mean? The room's on the opposite side of your... A piercing epiphany jolted me upright. You're returning to the mausoleum again? Edward inclined his head in a trepid acknowledgement.
眠れない日には時々そうするんだ。気分が良くなるんだよ。
Even on a night as frigid as this, you surely fall ill if you remain awake at night.
さっきは寒くないって言ってなかった?
It most certainly is now. Edward's lips twisted into a bemused smile, with surprise betraying him at my bold declaration. He shifted awkwardly, unable to meet my gaze, and glanced down to the floor.
仕方ないね。
His expression bore a curious mix of embarrassment and inexplicable pleasure, as if he had never encountered such a feeling before. Astonishment washed over me as I witnessed an unfamiliar side to him, prompting me to turn my head away in surprise. The feeling was strange, a nebulous sensation that eluded comprehension. Cloaked in a pretense of vigilance, I shadowed him as we made our way through the labyrinth corridors, our destination, Edward's room. Yo, we're going to his room. He pivoted towards me, his eyes asking a silent question. Are you happy now? My hand instinctively reached for the doorknob. Edward's face contorted in bafflement as he restrained my hand.
男の部屋に入ってもいい?
It's quite alright, sir. I have been in here countless times while cleaning.
そうなんだ。
Despite my answer, Edward's discomfort was palpable. He sought to hide his discomposure by burying his head in his hands, having sensed my concern for his vexation.
入ってもいいよ。
Though his shyness was unnecessary, the tips of his ears betrayed a blush, their color vibrant against the paleness of his skin. Bleh. If you'll pardon my intrusion, sir. I pushed the door open and surveyed the room within. A pleasant surprise awaited me. Edward's room was meticulously tidy, a testament to the effort to maintain order despite their lack of interest in the actual owner of this room. I sauntered a fucking saunter, lady? So the wardrobe and casually selected a change of clothes. Edward, who had been stationed by the closed door, dashed towards me with surprising agility.
クララ、僕のクローゼットをなぜ？
It's for you to change into. Here's your night shirt.
ああ、ありが
fucking,
とう。
fucking schmooving over into his wardrobe, dressing the man. Would you like assistance in changing into your nightshirt, sir? His eyelids fluttered rapidly before widening in response. The flush on his cheeks extended to the tip of his nose, a lingering effect of the cold, perhaps.
いや、本当に大丈夫だよ。
He nodded respectfully, observing as Edward hastily snatched his nightshirt and shuffled away. He isn't a lady, I suppose. I decided to respect Edward's autonomous choice. Once he was changed, Edward informed me I was free to leave if I desired. However, I remained adamant. A gnawing anxiety stirred within me as Edward, now lying on his bed, cast repeating glances towards the window. The mausoleum, his mother's final resting place, seemed to exert an undeniable pull to him. I intend to remain. Why are we talking? Okay. So fucking Clara, she goes out at midnight, which is like completely forbidden here. Like you're not allowed to go out at night here. So they fucking go out at night to discuss this like private, very important thing for him. They just don't talk about it. And now they are in another private area. So like this is completely private and they're just not gonna talk about it. All right. With directness, I cut through the silence and Edward nodded in with a grim nod.
クララ、僕は子供ではない。
And when I've ever treated you as such.
今がそうじゃない？
You are mistaken. Do you truly wish for a demonstration of what treating someone like a child is like? Don't say that, Clara. He might discover something about himself. I took a seat on the edge of the bed and began singing a lullaby, mimicking the soothing melody my mother had sung to me as a child. Edward paused, his brow furrowed in perplexity. What troubles you?
この歌、どこかで聞いたことがあると思う。
A certain side story in Yakuza 2. I haven't played Yakuza. What happens in Yakuza 2? It's a popular lullaby. My mother used to sing it to me when I was troubled.
お母さんがどんな方か聞いてもいい？
As long as you don't find it trivial, of course. My tales, for the most part, chronicled my mother's admonitions for my various mishaps. Despite my inability to fathom what he found so captivating about my mundane narratives, Edward steadfastly urged me to continue. Don't worry about it. You'll remember this exact conversation when it happens, though. Uh-oh. My grumpy visage drained of further stories as we stared back at him. Why do you find stories of my humiliation so amusing? Edward's hand darted out in a flurry of motion, a desperate attempt to undo the misunderstanding.
面白いんじゃなくて不思議で、ウバは僕を知らなかったから。
I dare say you never caused her trouble.
いや、そんなにいい子じゃなかったのに。
Well, judging by the peaceful way you lie in your bed, I'd say you are. With a playful glint in his eye, I reached out to poke his cheek, but he swiftly intercepted my hand. I know, right? Like, earlier it got really, really bad, and I was just like, oh no. Oh no. Because, like, I don't know, like, sometimes botched localizations, they, like, for some reason use a lot of archaic English words, and, like, stuff with, like, they don't understand the, now how I forget the word for it, there's a word for this, but, like, the connotation of some words, where, like, sometimes, like, a word that, like, technically it fits, but the connotation is off. And so it was like kind of like that. So I was like, either that, because I had forgotten that this was a localization at first. So I was just like, somebody like trying to sound smart. But I don't know why some botched localizations do this. It's just so baffling to me.
本当にそう見えるの？
Really want to show you Okage Shadow King one day as the single weirdest local. Oh boy. Pulled by a sudden force, I found myself struggling against the bed sheets. The momentum threw me on top of him as if I were to eat him alive. Not even badly translated. It's like, it's just that weird. Okay. Count me interested. Huh. His eyes widened in surprise, clearly not anticipating this unexpected turn of events. Attempting to quill the frantic pounding in my chest, I parted my lips to utter word. A shared reflex propelled us both upright, our eyes drawn to the opposing door as if by an invisible force. A sudden recollection of the handbook sparked in my mind, prompting me to hesitantly address him. My lord, shall we remain silent? Edward offered no response to my query. His face drained of color as if he committed some heinous act.
お母さんだ。
Dude, we're not into this. I beg your pardon?
お母さんが僕を呼んでいる。
Oh, okay. As long as it's not me you're referring to, we're good. His words sparked confusion within me. What kind of mother would pound at her son's door like that? A grimace contorted his face at the sound of the renewed pummeling on the door.
お墓参りに行くたびに、君のことをたくさん考えているんだ。
The confusion in his eyes gradually faded, replaced by an intraversible darkness. Kingdom Hearts.
僕が悪いことをしたんだ。
All the words for confusion to me. You cannot truly believe that, can you? A familiar face surfaced from my mind. The face of the one who had taught me the rules. Was it Mrs. Quiller? Did Olivia Quiller claim that was your... what the fuck? What are you trying to say here? My gaze locked into his hand as he grasped the necklace tightly around his neck. What are we doing here? Apparently there's a red gem around his neck. I never knew that. The red gem, which had been glinting in the moonlight, vanished into the shadows cast by his hand. A maelstrom of rage turned... what? Why are we angry? Threatening to erupt like a volcano. That is blue! Wait, I'll just prove to you it's not her. Even if we're the spirit of the lady in this house, I cannot stand idly by and witness her torment her own son. What? She's dead! His mother is dead! With steely resolve, I rose to my feet, only to be abruptly pulled back down by the restraining force around my wrist. Edward did not release his hold of my hand, his grip unwavering.
やめてくれ。
But my lord...
僕は大丈夫。ただ、もう寝たい。
He fucking forgot the word blue. Oh, I take offense to someone who loves the color blue. Unable to resist, I yielded and settled back down on the edge of his bed. Edward's eyelids fluttered shut, the blue moon painting his face in ghostly light. Keeping an eye on the door, I sang a soothing lullaby, my voice a gentle balm to his troubled spirit. As the last note faded into the quiet night, sleep descended upon him, offering a temporary haven to the chilling echoes of the door. The relentless pounding, unlike what Edward had said before, still haunted his sleep. Withdrawing my hand from his grasp, I rose slowly to my feet, each step a weighty echo in the stillness of the night. As I neared the door, its darkness seemed to beckon me closer. With a creak, the door yielded, letting in a flood of inky blackness. The corridors of the house, already barren in daylight, now appeared as hollow and desolate as a forgotten crypt. The silence was absolute, broken only by the frantic rhythm of my heart. This was not the comforting refuge described in the pages of the handbook. It was a place of secrets and shadows, a place where hope struggled to survive. And why? Period. Why did Edward stop me from opening the door? Perhaps within the darkness he conjured an image of his mother, A vision born of yearning and guilt. It was a fragile illusion, like a spiderweb spun in the dead of night, ready to be shattered at the first touch of truth. The longer he held onto that illusion, the deeper he sank into the abyss of self-deprecation. Leave me to wonder if he'd ever find that courage to confront the truth that awaited him outside the door. A deep sigh, laden with writing. This should, I'm about to say something mean. This should, this should give you inspiration to write, because if they can do it, you can do it. I'm just assuming that the original writing's like pretty good. It's just that, like, you know, we're getting it in a botched localization. Oh my god, hi Tomochi, welcome in. I hope you're having a fantastic one. Sleep, yet again, would be an elusive visitor tonight, I thought to myself, closing the door behind me. How many fucking chapters is in this goddamn game? I'm looking it up. Shit, I'm looking it up. Ugh. I do want to mention that it says free for a limited time. So like I did get this when it was like when it was listed as free for a month. It was like free for the month of July. So looking at the itch.io again, it's still free. They forgot to put it back to paid content. Okay. Okay. Let me see. How long is this? Oh, they're releasing an updated version soon, so I guess they know. I guess they know. Yeah, I'm just guessing they know that something happened here for the English localization. It doesn't say how long it is though. I was just under the impression it was a short one. Yeah, Edward turned as attention drawn to my figure standing before the canvas. The artwork was a giant, vibrant tapestry of light and color.
どう
My word is as if Lady Isabella brought the very ocean itself into this room. I allowed my eyes to leisurely explore its surf. Oh my god, hi
Your
Maya!
PC is absolutely
Welcome
fine.
in! Hi everybody, my
luck.
name is Neurosis, I'm Computerized VTuber. We are currently playing Under the Thorns. It is a currently free to play visual novel with not the best of localizations, let me just say. We're getting through it. Yeah, if you need to take a break, get some food, get some water, go ahead. We'll be... I don't know how long I'm going. Like, I'm not sure if we're gonna be finishing this one or not. Just because, like, I am tired. And I have, like, a lot to do. Hope you had a good, oh, miniatures and models? Rebuilding something? Hope you had good progress in it. But yeah, we're in chapter 4 of, I don't know. I tried looking up how long the game was, I couldn't find a definitive answer. Gunpla. Ooh, Gunpla, nice. So, basically, we're talking to this man right here. He has a mysterious secret, but he can't, like, we met him in the darkness of night last night, and they just fucking didn't talk about it. Which, not the best way to continue a mystery in a mystery novel. I allowed my eyes to leisurely explore its surface, absorbing the intricate details of the ocean scene. The golden sand, painted with remarkable realism, seemed to warm my feet beneath their imaginary touch. A mysterious secret, he knows where his eyebrow. Yo! While sunlight danced upon the rippling waves, creating an illusion of movement and depth. She certainly has a gift for painting, doesn't she?
結婚前に名のある巨匠のもとで修学されたそうだ。
Also, Edward's Japanese. You mean back when she was a young lady?
うん。お父さんと結婚するまでは。
Edward joined me, his eyes rising to meet the captivating artwork. The warmth and affection shining from within them spoke volumes of his love for the piece, a love that resonated deeply within my own soul.
母は故郷が恋しくなるたびに海を見るためにこの絵を描いたそうだ。いい感じでしょ?
Oh, I wouldn't disagree. It's truly breathtaking. So, like, the mystery we're trying to figure out right now is that, like, basically, he's the son of the lord of this house. So, like, he's like, technically our character's employer, our character's a maid. And, he's not allowed to leave the grounds at all. So he can't, like, leave to go somewhere. And also, everyone just fucking hates him. Except for the main character. Like, everyone just like, oh, fucking Edward, that asshole. And everyone, and our main character's like, but he's nice. So, like, that's the mystery today. But also, it's like, he looks sus. Man, I wish there was, like, some kind of sussiness beneath there. It just seems like circumstance. Man, fuck Edward, yeah. Even I, who had previously never considered such a thing, found myself yearning to visit the idyllic scene captured on the canvas. In my mind's eye, I just saw Edward seated before it, gazing out at the vast expanse of the ocean, his thoughts lost in contemplation. Unbidden, yet with an unwavering conviction, the words tumbled from my lips. I'm certain you'll get to see the real sea someday.
そんなことができるだろうか?
Of course, though it might take a little time and effort. Once Robert's illness was under control, Edward would be able to leave the manor and pursue his deepest aspirations.
そうだろうね.
Edward's response was silent affirmation, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. As I pushed open the heavy door to the servants' hall, my hands instinctively reached for my rumbling stomach. A wave of curious faces turned towards me, their expressions a mixture of anticipation and amusement. It was as though they had all been eagerly awaiting my arrival, their eyes filled with unspoken questions. The sudden focus was disconcerting, and I found myself blinking rapidly, a flush of embarrassment creeping across my face. Why are you all looking at me like curious cats? The defunct website, where you can ask people private questions. Alice hurried over to hold my hand, concern etched upon her features. I heard you volunteered to clean Lord Edward's chamber? My thoughts drifted to... My thoughts drifted to... whose earlier expression had been a puzzling mix of delight and apprehension. Now her silence made perfect sense. She must have divulged the news of my plans to the others. Indeed I did. The swales were giving me no end of trouble, and I thought change of scenery would be pleasant. Ah, I understand the difficulty. Are you certain you are comfortable taking on such a task? Why wouldn't I be? Well, there are thousands of reasons. Despite my assurances that all is well, Alice's agitation only intensified. As I stood by, passively observing, a growing throng of onlookers gathered. Their eyes were filled with suspicion and speculated about me and Edward. Come to think of it, you have been spending a lot of time with his lordship lately. And wouldn't you know it, there are whispers that you and his lordship are developing quite the bond. Now that is simply not true. We have merely struck up a friendly acquaintance, nothing more. For someone so unconcerned, your ears seem to be a rather fetching shade of red. And your nose shares the same color. As the seconds ticked by, the relentless chatter grew progressively louder, culminating in a particularly harsh comment. Feeling overwhelmed by the cacophony, I instinctively raised my hand to cover my ears and nose, taking a moment of respite from the incessant barrage of words. A wave of laughter erupted around me, echoing within the confines of the hall. Witnessing my distress, Thomas shook his head, his expression conveying a sense of helplessness. Claire, whatever feelings you may have for Lord Edward, I strongly advise you to reconsider. Yeah, nose. This didn't get a good localization. I assure you, I have no such feelings. I simply don't believe he is a terrible person as some would have us believe. Huh. Those instructions were to keep your distance were not issued without good reason. Yes, the handbook. Having personally experienced the repercussions of unchecked gossip and misplaced judgment, I now have had much to say on the matter. The events of his day had convinced me provided me with a wealth of knowledge that I determined to share. Has it even occurred to anyone that perhaps those instructions might be misleading? An oppressive silence descended upon the hall as I finished speaking. Every face turned towards me, etched with disapproval and contempt. Alice, who had been observing with arms crossed, finally broke the stillness with a cutting retort delivered with a frigid tone. Just because you arrived later than us does not mean you are privy to all those details, Clara. Then enlighten me. What is it do I not know? Our eyes met for a brief moment before Alice hastily averted her gaze, quickly followed by Thomas and Bruce. Never mind, I have work to do. Also, like, weirdly, and still not explained, there's like weird shadowy creatures. Which they haven't addressed, really. They're just like, oh yeah, the shadowy creatures. Nevertheless, Claire, give it some serious thought. Feeling the absurdity of the situation nodding in my gut, I offered a shrug of nonchalance. I turned my back on them and refused to grant their animosity even a flicker of my attention. Full psychosis. Oh, okay. Though their disapproval echoed in the form of audible tuts, I remained absolutely unfazed. I was gathering my cleaning supplies and heading outside when I spotted Edward seating at a distance. It had been less than a half hour since we left for lunch. Surprised by his unexpected presence, I hurried over. Lord Edward! Edward's shoulders stiffened. He hurriedly wiped his mouth.
早かったね。
What brings you here without taking your lunch first?
ただ、もどかしくて。
Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a small packet resting beside it. It appeared meagre for me. Meager. For a meal, and concerned nod at me. That's not how you spell meager, is it? I'm just gonna pronounce it like it's Spanish. Macho meagre. Yeah, meager. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be spelled. Jesus Christ. I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could utter a word, something was thrust into my mouth. I instinctively took a bite. And the biscuit crumpled against my tongue. It was a biscuit, it's fine. Releasing a symphony of flavor. It's a biscuit! The exquisite butter and bittersweet chocolate melted together, creating a taste of sensation like I had ever experienced. It was ripping there. It was heavenly.
君のことを思い出して。
He watched me intently for a moment, then shoved the entire pouch into my hand with a conspiratorial grin. It was clear he was bribing me with a delicious treat to ensure my cooperation. They are delicious.
多めに持ってきたから、たくさん食べて。
I joined him on the steps. We settled into a companionable silence as I arranged the remaining treats. The gentle breeze carried the scent of the snack, making it taste even more divine. Halfway through, we craved a cup of tea to settle the stomach. The ham warrior, thank you so much for the follow. Really appreciate it. Thank you. As Edward took a sip, he inquired about my schedule for the remainder of the day. With an eye roll, I pondered the tasks ahead and concisely listed them. After I finished cleaning the mausoleum, not much really other than, oh, it's also the day I visit the apothecary. Olivia provided me the details earlier. He instructed me to report to the main gate after completing my duties, where the coachman will await me to escort me into town.
君、一人で行くの?
As you may already know, the visit is supposed to be discreet. Edward seemed hesitant about sending me off alone. However, with only a handful aware of Lord Roberts' precarious state, reversing the decision wasn't an option. Upon hearing my explanation, Edward turned towards the front door, his expression grave.
クララ、僕が見送ってもいいかな?
What? Now? He offered a brisk nod without adding an explanation. Still unsure of the situation, I leaned close to his ear and whispered my question. Is something troubling you?
いや、ただ、もう正門くらいは大丈夫だと思って。
Eh. Despite my worried expression, he only offers a cryptic smile. While I didn't believe he would face any repercussions for accompanying me to the gate, I felt uneasy for reasons I could not explain. With Edward's assistance, I completed the cleaning task with ease, returned the tools, and exited the building. Edward, who had been waiting for me, repeated his earlier question.
本当に一人で行っても大丈夫?
I stopped abruptly and met his gaze directly. If you're concerned, you're more than welcome to join me.
僕もそうしたいんだけど。
But his eyes darted away, confirming my suspicions. There it was again, the hidden truth. If only we had learned about that like several nights ago when we actively went out to hear about it. He turned away. I turned away, intentionally feigning annoyance. It's not as if I'm going there because I particularly want to be there in the first place.
ごめんね。クララ、怒ってるの?
No, of course not. I am not upset. In fact, quite the opposite. I feel perfectly content. We set off towards the gate, bickering playfully. The carriage stood opposite the gate, but the coachman was nowhere to be seen. It appeared he had left for a brief errand. I unlatched the door and slid in. The condition of this place has changed quite dramatically. The interior was spotless and odor-free, a stark contrast with the previous state. It was clean enough for even Edward to find it acceptable. Are you absolutely certain you wouldn't prefer to remain outside?
乗ってみるよ。
As I was about to step out, Edward's hand shot out, stopping me in my tracks. A disquieting sense of unease washed over me as I recognized an unsettling shift in his demeanor. You're quite alright, aren't you? He cautiously lowered his foot from the curbstone, his movement suggesting a response to my unanswered question. I held my breath, watching him approach with a mixture of curiosity and nervousness. An unseen hand seemed to grip my heart, squeezing it with icy fear, its origin a shrouded mystery. His initial move was one of cautious exploration, but he quickly transitioned to a confident stride as if he had overcome his hesitation. With each step that he took, a strange joy seemed to bloom on his face, only to be extinguished just as quickly. Edward abruptly halted and frowned, as if sensing something was amiss. A crimson stream trickled from his parted lips, staining his collar. Oh, he's gonna die! Edward! Oh, fuck. Panic surged through me as I leapt down from the carriage and cradled his collapsing body. Edward looked up, his face pale and drawn. A pained groan escaped his lips. What the fuck? What's happening to you? My vision tunneled, filled only with him and the horror of the situation. Edward, coughing blood, spoke in a voice filled with despair.
やはり無理み。
What? Why?
ごめんね。君には心配ばかりかけているね。
Yeah, all the time, Errol. He closes his eyes, accepting the inevitable reality he had recognized.
やっぱり、一生。
Pale as death, Edward appeared to be on the brink of succumbing. My body quaked with fear and regret. Had I known what would transpire, I would never have urged him on. Please, somebody help! Help Lord Edward, please! A scream tore from my throat as I called for help, pulling Edward into my arms. It was the only thing I could do. As consciousness flickered back, I found Olivia's stern visage looming over me, her gaze devoid of warmth, drained by the blood from my skin. What transpired, Clara? I haven't the faintest notion. Suddenly, as we exited the gate, Lord Edward. Clara, compose yourself. There is blood, ma'am, and his lordship's lips. Clara! I stirred, muttering incoherently, met her unwavering stare. Everyone's losing their blood! Her silence is answer enough, and I waited, breath hitched for her next words. I'll handle his affairs, Clara. You tend to your own. Mine? Memories, elusive and fragmented, swirled from my head. A frantic search for clarity yielded not but a gnawing worry for Edward. You referred to the trip into town? Precisely. Is there any issue with that? No, ma'am. Olivia's disapproval, evident in the sharp click of her tongue, spurred me into action. Claire, let me give you a piece of advice. People die here. Focus on your own tasks and leave the business of others to them. Without a word, I stepped outside the room, the weight of the situation pressing down upon me. Leaning against the cool stone wall, I glanced at my maid's uniform, its pristine white now marred by a crimson stain. It served as a stark reminder of the events that had transpired. Anyway, we're just leaving. like nothing happened, right? The bustling town square, a stark contrast to the manor's quietude, buzzed with activity. If you see someone on a bicycle, eat shit and crack their skull open, you fucking leave them. It's not your business. You gotta manage your own affairs. Excitement had been coursing through my veins at the prospect of this errand. Unfortunately, my friend is dying. Until this afternoon. Yet a shadow of concern lingered, casting a pall over the vibrant scene. Edward's well-being weighed heavy on my mind, painting the world in shambles and chains of worry. With a heavy sigh, I looked out vacantly through the quarter light. The sympathetic gaze of the coachman reflected my internal turmoil. I'm sure I'll be alright. Very well. Well, since you're here in town, why not try and lift your spirits a bit? Though the urge to dismiss this concern was strong, decorum held me back. A curt nod and a strained smile were all I could manage. With a leaden heart, I grasped the carriage door and stepped out into the bustling cobblestones. My gaze, unseeing and unheavy, scanned the rows of shops, searching for the address hidden among the colorful facades. My destination, nestled among numerous shops lining the boulevard, awaited. The vast expanse of the countryside, coupled with the scarcity of medical professionals, and relying on the family's doctor's wisdom for any ailment. I watched the apothecary carefully as he read Olivia's letter, his brow furrowing in concentration. He then began to measure and mix various ingredients, his movements precise and practice. As I waited, anticipation building with each passing moment, something unexpected appeared before me. Before I could grasp the situation, the medicine stood complete. The silence stretched thick as the apothecary's hushed words hung in the air, a smile of riddle waiting to be solved. A little warning next time, eh? Makes things smoother. Certainly. The whispered word piqued my curiosity, but I responded nonetheless. A satisfied smile played on the apothecary's lips as he whistled a merry tune, reclaiming a seat. I stuffed the medicines and instructions into my bag with a hurried movement and stole a quick glance at him before exiting the shop. What was that interaction? Curiosity kills Claire, they warned, yet here I am again. The moment I stepped out of the apothecary shop, I pulled a paper from the bag and eagerly scanned the contents. My eyes devoured the contents. A concise recipe, precise dosages, list of precautions, and a detailed list of forbidden ingredients. I know, This one element stood out. The repeated assertion that the apothecary was fulfilled Olivia's every request. I know, right? Even independent, independent Vienna and Otome creators, they put in a lot of work. And a lot of the work that they put in is absent from this game. You don't even need a generic NPC portrait. You could have a silhouette. Silhouettes are actually very they aren't hard to find. That are freely available. You just need an outline of a person filled in. And little things like that are killing this game. There was something, it was earlier, so it was before you popped the arrow. There was a moment where there's an obvious scene of horror where where the main character, she sees one of the weird creepy shadows for the first time, and it's clear by the writing it's meant to be a horrifying scene that's kind of takes you out of the moment of oh shit, what's going on, oh this is kind of mysterious. But the thing is, the music that was playing in the background was so kind of jaunty So we're just like, what am I supposed to be feeling here? Like, in a moment like that, you're supposed to cut the music and make you think, like, oh, fuck, like, something happened in here. But no. That, like, the beauty of VNs is, like, a combination of, like, all these elements. Because, like, novels, you just have the text. So you have to, like, worry about the text primarily. But then, with VNs, you have to worry about the visuals and the sound. The sound and sound design all working together. And if, like, you can have a really good piece of writing for a novel that you need to structure the visuals and the sounds properly to make sure that whatever you're trying to convey in the written part is properly reflected in a visual novel, and they're not taking the care to make sure the visual aspects help and assist the writing, and also the audio aspects are not assisting the writing. It's bad. It's just bad. This is, like, actually kind of sad because I was very interested in this. Consider no. Oh, yeah. Can't. If they're not getting paid, so they don't have to give a shit, right? Why should you give a shit if you're not getting paid for this? I see nothing peculiar. I approached the carriage, parked in the alleyway behind the shop, my hand reaching for the door handle. A burning desire to return home and tend to Edward consumed me. I'm back. So soon? There's nothing out of the ordinary. Well, I got something rather special for us. What might that be? The coachman, scratching his head, points towards the nearby gate. A large crowd had gathered there, and an overturned carriage lay in the process of being repaired. This unexpected obstacle added to my frustration. Well, as I mentioned before, it's high time we had a change of scenery. Couldn't we simply remain in the carriage to take a well-deserved rest? Out of the question. How else could I enjoy a proper drink then? Heavens above. Regardless of the throbbing headache that pulsed to my temples, the coachman continued his unfiltered pronouncements. From the coachman's words, it appeared a few... You know what? I am no longer interested in playing this game anymore. Oh, this is like a chore to read. Oh. Who knew that the real horror story was actually the game design? Ooh. I'm gonna play some Raven's Watch. I was actually thinking of playing Baldur's Gate after I was done streaming. But oh my god. Ooh. Ooh, this took the wind out of my sails. It also sucks that I was like playing a really good... I was actually starting with a really, really good short, like very short and sweet visual novel that was like spooky and stuff. And I really liked that one. So that was really, really good. It's just this one, ooh, it's bad. And I don't like saying that too, especially for things I get for free. Like, man. You know what? I'm gonna skip. Alright, let me see what preference is. Let's see what we can do here. Sometimes it's just bad sometimes, yeah. That's okay. I'm just sad because, like, based on the vague description of the story that I've been given, I mean, that we were given on itch.io. They didn't reach out to me at all. So, like, based on that description, I was kind of led under the impression that it was kind of be something, I don't know. One of my favorite classical novels is Jane Eyre, where, like, Jane Eyre's like, it's a lady, she fucking is a maid. Well, no, governess. She goes to a mysterious guy's manor, and there's like a big mystery. People get set on fire and stuff. So that's kind of like the mystery shit I was kind of trying to expect here. Cause like mysterious manor for mysterious dude who owns the manor, and she's a maid and stuff. But oh, this is a rough one. Okay. I don't even care anymore. We're going. We're charging ahead. Oh, he's alive. Oh man, he's alive. I'm just I feel like I'm playing Cookie Clicker right now. Yeah. Yeah, hi, Edward. There's a 5th chapter. Okay, Edward's fine. Okay. Oh, it looks like maybe his dad died, I think. Okay, it looks like the dad died that we're getting the medicine for. Okay. Don't care. Oh, Edward wasn't named in the will.
オリビア、私は
Oh. Oh, shit. Could it be the only other person with a CG? With a character sprite? Could they have done it? Crowd control, back lobby. Oh, nice. Oh no, Edward's not inheriting anything. Uh-oh. Oh my god. I mean, this guy's handsome.
邸宅
Oh,
へようこ
it's
そ
Lord Brandon.
ブランドン
Man, I didn't know another character would be introduced. I'm stopping. I'm stopping. No, I don't need any more of this. I thought it was gonna end soon. I was just like, I just want to see the ending CGs and then be done with my life. No, that's not it. Anyway, that's it for me today. I want to play Baldur's Gate. I want something good in my veins. But yeah, thank you for joining me for good visual novel versus another visual novel night. So as a reminder, I'm basically like right after work tomorrow. I'm going on vacation. So you won't see or hear from me from oh my god, hi Ultra, were you watching that whole time? Uh-oh. After this game. Ultra, like, you were just silently watching. He's like, oh, oh no. Didn't say anything because of the sheer horror of what you were witnessing, which I don't blame you for that. But anyway, so, uh, yeah, vacation tomorrow. So obviously no streaming. I may stream Monday night. It entirely depends on how I'm feeling though. Because you know, it's like I could do it, but it also depends on like how I'm feeling. So, but otherwise, you won't see. You're guaranteed, at the very least, next time you'll see me is Tuesday night for Seven Scarlet. We're starting the Asura route, and that'll be like at minimum you'll see me then, but maybe Monday. I don't know. Sometime next week I'm gonna finish Alan Wake as well, so hopefully we'll do that. I mean, we will do that. I make the schedule, so yes, we will do that. It's not like me like, oh, I hope I'll allow myself to play Alan Wake. That thing. Um, yeah. Yeah. Let me see who we're gonna rate tonight. Jesus Christ, Shaq's still streaming it. Just still fucking playing his dang Dragon Balls. All right, we're We're gonna raid check these Cassandra Torin. I was on a stream earlier. We do exercise things every Wednesday. So he got food. Nice. Yeah. So go check out Check and his Dragon Balls. And I'll see you at the very least on Tuesday, if not on Monday. But yeah, have a good night, everybody. Please detox your brains from this visual novel. I will see you later. Bye.